Hello and welcome to Moonshots. I'm Mike Parsons and I am so excited to share with you today everything you need to know about growth mindset. Now, the growth mindset has been huge with all the superstars, all of the gurus and experts that we've studied on the Moonshots podcast. We've discovered that growth mindset is a huge part of their success. So we want to break it down, we want to define it. We want to help you kind of evaluate where you are with it and give you some simple habits so you can adopt a growth mindset so you can be the best version of yourself. So the growth mindset playbook, this is all about how you can realize your dreams. And if you're going to chase your dreams, you're for sure going to get some bumps along the way. So let's work out how we can adopt a growth mindset and really be the best version of ourselves. So I want to start this story with six groups of people that you're most definitely going to know. And there's a really common trait that happened for many of these people in the early part of their careers. We've got Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, Einstein, Oprah, Jordan, and the Beatles. Now, what's really interesting, if you study their early careers, they all had, despite being in wildly different areas of practice, very different types of careers, they had one really strong commonality. They all experienced failure, and some of them pretty big failures. So check this out. Steve Jobs, he was just 30 years of age and he was fired from his own company. Disney was also fired for having, wait for this, a lack of imagination. Einstein didn't speak so much as a young child, and they said, never amount to much was how they described Einstein, his early teachers. Crazy to think what he went on to do. Oprah, the queen of television, she was fired from her anchor TV spot. Jordan didn't even make the high school basketball team. And the Beatles, when they went to Decca Recordings, check this out. This is what they were told by the recording studios. We don't like their sound. They have no future in show business. The greatest, the biggest band of all time were told that. So isn't it interesting that each and every one of these people, these groups of people, they actually faced really significant failures in the early part of their career. But what we all know is that they went on to do amazing things. What we know is that all of these people on your screen are considered to be basically the best ever in their respective practice. Yet they all faced failure. And I think the key thing about this is they did not stop. They didn't pause. They didn't give up. They kept going. And what I found from doing the Moonshots podcast, studying hundreds and hundreds of superstars, that this ability to keep going when things get really tough is an enormously powerful characteristic. And it's really built from this idea of a growth mindset. And so I want to be able to share with you everything that I've studied, everything that I've learned about growth mindset. I want to package it all up for you, give you some context, some really great self-evaluation questions, and also some really simple practices that you can adopt. And I want to do all of this in less than 20 minutes so you can be on your way to being the best version of yourself. So this growth mindset is one of about 70 characteristics, practices, frameworks that I've discovered really successful people use. In fact, it's one of the key parts of what we call the Moonshots model. And in studying all of these amazing people, what we've discovered is that growth mindset is not like just scraping into the top 70. I would say this is easily top 10. In fact, we've talked about just 6 different groups of people that have used the growth mindset, but there are plenty more. So if you want to find out about not only growth mindset, but everything that makes up the Moonshots model, head over to moonshots.io. Okay, so let's get some definitions out of the way, and let's actually start with what growth mindset is. Definitely not. It is not a fixed mindset. And a fixed mindset is just a way of saying someone who sees a lot of limits in themselves. So some of the beliefs you might hear them say, if people have a limiting fixed mindset, is they avoid challenges. They give up easy. Now, here's the interesting thing is all of us, even if we have a growth mindset, can be tempted to be threatened by the success of others. They just want to look smart rather than actually be smart. They might actually look at putting in a lot of effort into something as being fruitless. They may even ignore feedback that they get along the way. But most of all, if someone is really in a fixed mindset, you got to help them out. But also, you're going to hear them say, listen, it just is what it is. This is how I am. I can't change it. That's what we call a fixed mindset. It's really seeing the limits of oneself. Now, let's have a look at what's on the other side of this. I hope it's a bit more cheerful than a fixed mindset. And of course, it's all about freedom. So a growth mindset is about the exponential nature of yourself. If you are really practicing a growth mindset, you're going to persevere in the face of failure. You're going to really put in the time and the effort, and could be a lot of time, to build new skills. You might say things like, I find inspiration in others' success. I embrace challenges. I accept criticism. I desire to learn. I build my abilities. This is the big one. These are not fixed. These are dynamic. These are things I can work on. And if you can embody this growth mindset, what I've discovered is that many superstars, many really successful people have a growth mindset. So in short, the fundamental idea I want to invite you to really just entertain right now is that your talents are not fixed. Your talent is dynamic, it's exponential. You can put in the work and become whatever you want. So like a mantra of someone who lives by a growth mindset, they believe that hard work beats talent every single time. And I've got a lot of evidence to show you and a lot of different data points to share with you. And I really encourage you, just, if you're not sure, just give it a chance to entertain this idea that your talent is exponential. It's dynamic. It is certainly not fixed. Okay, so I want to come back to some really inspirational people around growth mindset. And we knew from the earlier slide about some of the challenges that Steve Jobs faced. Remember that he was kicked out of his own company, fired as CEO when he was 30, but came back and did an even better job. Some might say one of the greatest CEO leadership stints ever, because you might argue that all the success Apple enjoys today is still largely as a result of his work. And here's what he has to say, which is totally rooted in the growth mindset. He talks about learn continually. There's always one more thing to learn. Let's look at Oprah. The queen of television says, think like a queen. A queen is not afraid to fail. Failure is another stepping stone to greatness. Now, this is something I've discovered so many times when you study the work and the effort of successful people, that failure is far from being something that they are embarrassed about. Failure is something they almost thrive on. It makes them stronger. Worst case scenario, they're saying, at least I know what not to do next time. So this idea that you're just getting closer. Every time you fail, you're just getting closer to success. Now, David Goggins, an amazing human being. He is the only human being on the planet in history to qualify for all three special forces in the US. So Army, Navy, and Air Force. He did all three. And he talks about comfort zones. And here we're going to get into the highest level of growth mindset, of growth thinking. And this is what he says. If you live in one comfort zone too long, that kind of becomes the norm. You get a little comfy. And he talks about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. This is a huge one, because if you can never settle for the status quo, you can always push a little bit further. And it doesn't have to be a lot. 1% better every day. That's something we learned from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. This can unlock so much inside of you. I think it's really important. These are the manifestations, the ideas of people who have done growth mindset, who have succeeded with growth mindset, who are living proof that it's worth considering. Okay, so now we've looked at some high and mighty and how they do it. Let's now turn the attention to ourselves. Let's see where we are. And after we do this together, I'll give you some simple practices. that you can do for growth mindset. But I really want you to reflect on these questions and see if you can use them to unlock new opportunities for yourself. All right, question number 1. When working on something that matters, can you keep going when it hurts, even despite thinking about quitting? Whoa, there is so much in this one. Look, the truth is, if you're doing something that matters, you're going to have bumps along the way. You're going to have obstacles, challenges, maybe really big blockers. You might need to work on something for days, weeks, months, years. James Dyson, amazing inventor, he worked for years in his back shed building prototypes, over 5,000 prototypes to get the right vacuum cleaner. Are you willing to keep going? This is a huge characteristic of a growth mindset. And here's the little nuance is that even the greatest people, even people like David Goggins, who's on screen, does have the thought, oh, why am I running this long distance? Why am I doing this? Oh, it's hurting. I want to stop. They have the thought, but they reject it. They do not accept it. They do not entertain it. That's really a growth mindset. So ask yourself, when you're working on something, can you keep going? Even if you're thinking about it. This is really important. Now, if you are really interested in this kind of resilience, you've got to read Can't Hurt Me by Dave Goggins. It is such an amazing, practical book, but super inspiring at the same time. It will give you lots of insights into how to set goals, how to motivate yourself, and how to prepare yourself for hardship and get through the other side. Okay, that's question number 1. So write down your answers. Okay, question number 2. What recent new skill have you mastered so well that you could teach it to your colleagues? Now, there's a lot inside of this, and teaching and learning actually are much more closely related than you might think. There is a great saying that if you want to learn something, you should teach it. And if we want to create change in our organizations, we want to create a culture of collaboration, this mindset of learning and sharing and teaching are a big part of making that happen. So there's a great book by Satya Nadella called Hit Refresh on how he brought this idea of learning and a growth mindset to Microsoft. The transformation that he has made of that organization is phenomenal and at massive scale. He's not just running one race. He is getting thousands of people to run the race with him. I really encourage you to think about what you've been learning. What new skills have you been adopting? And have you mastered it sufficiently that you could teach it to your colleagues? And I want you to think about that, because that's an opportunity for you to grow, to build from an expert to mastery. We'll come back to that later. Okay, so we're 2 questions in. We're trying to work out, where are we really on the growth mindset? How much have we embodied it? Maybe get some thought-provoking questions to spur us into action. Third one, this is the last question. When did you last receive, digest, and accept critical feedback? And then, here's the key bit, change your behavior as a result. Many of us get very concerned when we hear feedback. We perceive it as being very judgmental. But what you can do is you can use any sort of feedback, whether it's ill-meaning or good-meaning, it doesn't matter. You can receive it, process it, accept it for what it is, but you can use it to improve your behavior, to get a better result, to be a better partner, a better friend, a better colleague. And if you can just open yourself to accepting it and then using it for your own growth, it's very powerful. Now, a great book that touches upon this is Option B by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant. This book really gets into the idea of facing adversity, becoming resilient, accepting feedback, maybe accepting even bad news, shall we say. Just welcome it in and let it be a tool for your own self-improvement. What have we done? We've looked at resilience, we've looked at learning, and we've looked at feedback. 3 big pillars of a growth mindset. I hope you're getting really provoked by this. And if you really want, you can write down your responses to this and any inspiration that comes to you, because what I'm about to do now is share with you the rituals, the habits that you can adopt so you can actually really start exploring a growth mindset. Okay, habits for you. 3 big ones here. I personally, I love all of these, and we've done a lot of study on superstars, and I got to say, a lot of them are practicing these 3. Let's jump in. Mantras. Now, I don't want to be too wishy-washy here. But let me tell you, you need to have a real focus every morning on your mantra, your positive affirmation, your commitment to who you want to be. And you can do that with a simple mantra. It's something maybe you want to draft, write it up about your intentions for who you want to be, how you want to operate, what's your plan. You want to kindle that burning desire that Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich. You want to unlock the right internal clock that Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Build your mantra. And a mantra can be something like a statement. I will grow my business X%. That can be a really good mantra. You could say, hey, you really want to work on receiving feedback? I am open to feedback from others. That could be a mantra as well. Now, here's the thing. If you practice this every single day, if you practice your mantras, you will prime your subconscious. You will build this kind of muscle memory in yourself where you will start priming yourself to think this way, and that it will become not just a natural response, but it will become a subconscious response. You don't have to think, oh, I'm getting feedback. How do I want to process it? No. Okay, I'm open. Please tell me. I'd love to grow. I'd love to be better. That can be a way that you can use your mantras to change your behavior. So mantras every day, write them out first and say them out loud. Talk out loud, manifest them. I know that some really serious practitioners of this will actually speak these into a mirror. All right. That's a high level growth mindset. Okay. The next one is around the learning and teaching. And my best suggestion here as a habit is start writing in public. Start really small. Doesn't have to be big. It can be 200-300 words. And maybe you need to start with a tweet, whatever it takes, but start writing. And the key here is in public, because if you write in public, you make the stakes far higher. You make the stakes real, and you need to commit to it, and you need to be regular. And this is the key thing, that when you are sharing your knowledge, you're teaching. And in order to write a great blog post, to write a great tweet, you got to know what you're talking about. And this is almost creating this practice of mastery to force you into sharing what you know. And what you'll invariably find is it makes you study a little harder, maybe fill in some of the gaps that you have on this particular idea. And you'll find it super rewarding, because this art of publishing your thinking and writing is a great way to build your knowledge, build your curiosity. Okay, third step, ask somebody for feedback. Hey, now, frankly, how regularly do you really do this? What you'll probably find is the answer is not very much. So let's change that. Let's ask for feedback. Because most people are a bit reluctant to get feedback, there's a couple of tips here. The first thing is I would always pick someone that you trust and tell them that you trust them, that you respect their opinion. And the next thing is before you even ask the question about what you specifically would like the feedback on, I think you should tell them I want to use this feedback to improve myself. And I think this is, it's a bit cheeky, but what you're actually doing is priming them to be objective, but constructive. This helps them not be maybe nasty. This helps them to avoid being a little judgmental, but to really give you feedback that can help you grow. And you can ask them a question, how could I improve my thinking, my leadership, or my business skills? Or you might go after something very specific that's on your mind. Do this, ask somebody for feedback, do it regularly, and before it, you'll become comfortable. In fact, I would say you'll search out feedback, and this will be so good. This is like a shortcut, really, for self-improvement, because people will know that you're genuinely going to use it, so they'll give you genuine feedback. Okay, here we are. We're almost at the end, and I think that what I want to do now is, if you've watched this far into the video, you deserve to know about this book. It's called Mindset by Dweck. She is the godmother of the idea growth mindset. Nobody is more responsible for this concept, for the study of it, for the articulation of it than Carol. She has a great book called Mindset. I highly recommend it. It is something that will change your life. All right, if you've enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button, but also head over to moonshots.io where we study hundreds of these superstars, these mental models, what we call the Moonshots models. All right, that's a wrap.